Hello, and welcome to the C3 Method podcast with your host, Robert Polonic. Our goal is to educate you on everything health and fitness related with a clear, concise, and customized approach. We want you to know what you need to know and how to apply it in a way that fits you best. Today's podcast is number 2281. The title is Lose Fat by Eating More. So how in the world can we lose body fat by actually eating more food? I want to give a client example of how this concept was true and explain how this is actually true for a lot of people. So this client is a personal trainer. She's in good shape, but she wants to get more firm for social media to look a little bit tighter, feel more confident in her skin, and help to grow her business. So she knows a lot about training, she knows a lot about nutrition, but something just didn't seem to be clicking nutrition-wise. So I asked her what her current food routine was. She said for breakfast that she has oatmeal, eggs, and coffee. Then she has a mid-morning snack of rice cakes and Greek yogurt. For lunch, it's chicken, rice, and vegetables. So good old bodybuilding kind of staple there. Then she has a protein shake intra-workout. And then for dinner, she said it's meat, carb, veg all the time. So she'll switch up the meat, she'll switch up the type of carbohydrate, the vegetable, but it's always under 500 calories. And I said, okay, well, how many calories are you eating per day? And she said she aims for around 1,500 calories. Well, how much do you weigh? She said 160 pounds, but she wants to get under 140, and that's based on the look of this Instagram trainer and kind of fitness coach. She likes the way that girl looks, and that girl said that she weighs 140, so she's like, okay, I probably need to weigh about 140 if I want to look the way she looks. I then asked how many grams of protein does she eat per day, and she said around 140. She decided to go with her ideal weight rather than her current body weight. So she was essentially saying she was aiming for a gram per pound of body weight. And I was like, well, you weigh 160, well, not 140. And then she said, well, I was going with 140 because that's how much I would weigh if I was lean. I don't want to eat the amount of protein to match my fat body, the way she said it. She goes, I want to match my ideal body. And I said, okay, fair enough. They're both relatively close to each other. I said, so you train 5 to 8 hours of clients a day. She then does her own workout. You're active with your boyfriend, because she was telling me kind of like quality of life and her step count. She said she almost is always over 10,000 steps because she's active with her boyfriend. She walks her dog every day, and she's just generally kind of an upbeat person. And I said, well, that's quite a lot. 5 to 8 hours of clients a day, so about 35 to 40 hours a week, somewhere in there, up on her feet, talking to people. She also trains herself, and she's active and has 10,000 plus step count. So I said, do you know what your BMR is? And that's your basal metabolic rate, the minimum amount of calories your body needs just to function and be alive. So if you were to lay in bed, do absolutely nothing, even have your eyes closed, this is how many calories your body needs just to run its organs. So I said, do you know what your BMR is? And she said, no. I said, okay, well, that would be very helpful for us to know. So I said, let's do that together. So I showed her on Google, on the Googs. You can just type in bmrcalculator.net, and it'll take you to this website, calculator.net, and a BMR calculator so that we can figure that out. You put in your age, gender, height, and then weight. And then she has, we knew her body fat percentage, so we put that in as well to get a more accurate number. And her BMR is 1,624. So let's just round it out and say 1,600. Then her calories for maintenance, meaning how much she would need to eat to maintain her current weight based on her current activity level, would actually be around 2,800 calories. And it's like, okay, so we know the bottom floor, the basement of what you should be eating is your BMR. And that's actually arguably, you could, eat, you necessarily would need above that if you were at maintenance conditioning. But if you're trying to lose weight, it depends on BMR based on a lot of things. But it's a typical way to set this up is if you do the calculator.net, your BMR, that's as low as I would go with calories. And then okay, based on my activity level in this chart that they show you, how many calories I need just to stay where I'm at. So her basement, her bottom is 1,600. Her top is 2,800. So really, she could be eating anywhere in there, and that'll promote fat loss. But she was only having 1,500 calories. So she's at like 10% less than her BMR. That is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly low, especially for somebody, she's only at 20% body fat. She's already relatively good shape. It's not like she's 300 pounds and needs to take 100 pounds off. She's already really pretty close to where she would want to be. So I said, well, what is your daily energy like? And she said, oh, not bad. I'm really pretty good. I have, coffee in the morning, and I'll have a couple cups, throughout the morning between clients. I have my pre-workout energy drink, and then sometimes I'll have, coffee in the afternoon if I'm getting a little tired. And I was like, well, that's a lot of caffeine, actually. So we were trying to look it up, and her pre-workout is 200 milligrams of caffeine. A cup of coffee is around 80 to 120 milligrams of caffeine. Depends on this. If you're talking about a literal cup or a mug, like a coffee mug, it depends on the size. But she was roughly around 500 to 800 milligrams of caffeine a day. So I was like, your energy actually isn't good. You're just masking it by having a ridiculous amount of caffeine. And you have a natural, just busybody personality. We were laughing because we were talking it out, and it's related to kind of this high anxiety type mood. So really high anxiety that is masking itself as being a go-getter in type A, and I'm always active, I'm always in charge, I'm always doing something. And 500 to 800 milligrams of caffeine. She's just wired. Man, she is wired. So I said, likely the reason why you're not continuing to lose body fat, the reason why you feel soft and kind of mushy compared to what you think you should based on what you eat and how active you are, is because you're not eating enough. And she said, really? And I said, yeah. So we've actually been working together for 6 weeks. This past weekend marked our 6-week mark. 4 weeks. So just 4 weeks. 4 weeks. And she lost 6 pounds in 4 weeks after previously having been stuck for months. And what we did was we actually adjusted her calories up. So we went from having 1,500 calories a day is what she was doing before we met. I now gave her a range of 1,800 to 2,200 calories. And we're on the higher end of that range on training days, lower end of that range on non-training days. Protein we kept about the same, about 130 to 160 grams. So roughly about a gram, maybe 1.1, grams per pound of body weight. And then training, she didn't mention it until we were further in the conversation, but she was doing fasted cardio 5 days a week. And it was only about 15, 20 minutes, but it was totally fasted. It was step meal. And I was like, we don't need to do any of that. We don't need to just calorie churn and burn when you're already at 10,000 steps. So we dropped the cardio completely. And weight training, we do 4 days a week for sure, but she has 1 weekday a week where she can take off if she has to do business stuff, because she, personal trainer, you got odds and ends and errands to run. So we do 4 workouts for sure, with a 5th day as an optional. So we're now eating more, on average about 400 to 500 calories more than she was eating before. We dropped all the cardio, and in 4 weeks, she lost 6 pounds. And that was after previously having no loss whatsoever for months. So she lost 6 pounds in 4 weeks by eating more and doing less. She looks harder and more detailed. And the pre-workout was starting to cause her shakes and was messing with her sleep. So we dropped her pre-workout completely. So she needs less caffeine. She's eating more food. And we dropped all of her cardio. And she lost 6 pounds. What? So her feedback was, I wouldn't have imagined I would have to eat more to lose weight. Help me make sense. Help me make sense of this is essentially what she must have meant. And that's what I want to do in today's podcast, is explain, why did this work? Why, or how in the world can someone eat more, do less, and actually lose more body fat? Right? That's a pretty good question. We can break this down if we start kind of talking about what is the purpose of body fat. Our body stores fat to protect itself. That's essentially why we, depending on whatever your belief is of human evolution or how long humans have been on the planet, whatever, the functionality of stored body fat is stored energy. It's protective energy for our organs. If we were to miss eating, miss a meal, let's think back in the day when we had to go kind of forage for our food or go hunt and kill our food. If we missed the kill, like if we didn't get anything in the hunt, we came back to forage our crops, but the crops had, been eaten by another animal or they had insects all over them, there was something wrong. What in the world were we going to do? We're missing food. How is our body going to run its organs? How is our body going to stay alive? So it figured out, well, when I have moments where I'm eating more than I should, like more than not should, but when I'm eating more than I need, let me save some of that excess to cover moments when I have less than what I need. So when we have less than what we need, our body pulls from body fat. That sounds like, well, if I just eat less, I'll lose my body fat. Which the initial response is, yes, that's true. However, the body starts to realize, well, if I give you all of my body fat, what do I do then? Like when I run out of body fat, we're dead. I can't just give all this up and then all of a sudden run out of body fat. So as it's running out of body fat, it starts to say, well, crap, I got to do something. If you're not going to eat more, I have to require less. So the body starts to make changes in its, and a broad way of saying this is metabolism, the calories it uses. It tries to reduce its calorie use as a response to you requiring body fat but not eating more food. So again, the body says, well, I'm not going to let you kill us. I would like to stay alive. So I'm going to figure out how to use less calories if you're not going to eat more calories. So what was happening for her was when she initially ate less, she initially lost weight. But then all of a sudden, she wouldn't be able to lose anymore, like nothing was happening. So she would eat a little bit less, but again, nothing happened. She ate a little bit less, but nothing happened. She added more activity, but nothing happened. Why did a continuation of reduction and a continuation of increasing calorie usage by activity, why did that not relate in more fat loss? The reason why was the body believed if it were to continue to give up body fat, given what she kept doing, it would die. That's a very summarized version of it, but we can think of it as this simple to help understand the concept. Is if we drive off all the body fat and we miss 1 calorie, we start to die. Our organs start to eat themselves, muscle starts to eat itself, the body as in general runs out of fuel and it shuts down. So when we run out of fuel in our car, we run out of gas in the car, on the highway, we just have to pull over and wait for somebody to bring us gas. Well, if you run out of gas in your body, meaning you run out of all available fuel, you can't just pull over and wait for more. You die. Now, there are stages to it. I've worked with people with eating disorders such as anorexia, and they've been hospitalized due to a whole bunch of blood work factors that would show and indicate that the body is eating muscle tissue, including organ tissue. So there are stages to it. It's not like it's an instant thing. But our body does make adjustments in which, if we're too severely underfed, our body fights the fat loss process. And that was what was happening. She was too severely underfed. She was eating too much less. So we needed to eat more in order to tell the body is, hey, I'm going to give you not everything you need, so we don't need any body fat, but I'm going to give you a little bit more, so maybe we don't need as much body fat, so you don't need to protect everything we have. Let's let a little bit go. So here's a way of saying this. Is an analogy I use is if I want to steal candy from a baby. So if I want to steal candy from a kid, say it's after Halloween, we went trick-or-treating, and they have 100 pieces of candy. And I'm a greedy dad. I, carried this little rugrat around the whole time. I'm going to get a couple pieces of candy because, I did my job and I deserve some of it too. However you want to rationalize it, okay? So let's say that I want to get some candy. If I just take a big swipe of candy, maybe I get 20 pieces. The kid's going to see that. They're going to notice 20 pieces are gone and they're going to go, what the hell? They're either going to see me do it, or they're going to notice that there's just less than there was. And they're going to be like, what the heck? I didn't eat this. Where did it go? Let me hide my candy to protect my candy because I don't want to lose my candy. So another model of doing that would be is maybe I take 1 or 2 pieces. Then the next day I take 1 or 2 pieces. The next day I take 1 or 2 pieces. The kid each day is eating a few pieces, so they're not really noticing that there's this extra 1 or 2 piece missing. And then, over the course of a few days, you may have gotten 30 pieces out of the candy stash rather than just swiping once and only getting 20. So a little bit goes a long way. By taking a little bit at a time, we can take a little bit for longer and longer and longer and longer, and we eventually can take more. So if we take a little bit over time, we can get a larger volume than if we were to try to take a lot at once. The same is true of body fat. If I do an extreme deficit, bam, right away, extreme deficit, I'm going to get a lot out right away. But then my body starts to fight the process, it starts to protect body fat, and then we don't get any more. Whereas if I just take a little bit, day after day after week, all of a sudden I can get a lot more off. And what's nice, that doesn't kind of fit the candy analogy anymore, but what's nice is as I would lose body fat in a slower, controlled manner, my body has no desire to put the fat back on in moments when I overeat. So if there's a family, vacation, a birthday, celebration, work event, social event, where maybe I eat a little more than I needed at that moment, my body's going to say, well, we have been in a little bit of a deficit. I've been losing a little bit of fat, but I feel okay. I feel safe. I'm not, in danger, so we don't need to save any of this. But if you use the method of taking as much as you possibly can right away at once, the second the body gets an opportunity to replace some of it, it absolutely will, because it's in this protective mode. And it's like, oh my gosh, we're losing left and right. I'm trying to adjust what I'm doing. I can't lose anymore. Holy crap, we just got a whole bunch in. Let's save everything we can. So when we try to go too aggressive, not only does it limit how much we can take in the long run, it also causes our body to put that fat back on as much as it possibly can, as fast as it can, in every opportunity that it can. Whereas if we take a more moderate deficit and we take a more moderate amount of fat day after day after week after week after month, the body doesn't need to put that back on. So we tend to be able to take more off in total over time, and our body doesn't try to fight to put it back on over time. This is a great way to make sustainable change rather than quick change that doesn't last very long. You lose 30 pounds in 30 days, but you put 30 pounds back on in the next 30 days, right? So instead, we'd rather take 60 days to lose the 30 pounds. And that's an example. That's very aggressive. So you wouldn't actually want to do it that aggressive. But the point is, I might want to take 1.5 to 2 times longer to get the same amount off, because then my body doesn't try to put it right back on. So that is the analogy of how we can lose fat by eating more. Is if we are eating too much less, then eating more puts us in the right amount of less. And we can lose body fat without our body fighting that process. So a good way to figure this out for yourself is to go to bmrcalculator.net. Again, the website is calculator.net, and there's a BMR calculator. So you just type that into Google, bmrcalculator.net. Put in your age, height, weight, gender. If you know your body fat percentage, you can put that in, or you can just use a regular formula that doesn't use body fat percentage. It'll give you an estimated BMR, and that's going to be the bottom of your range. It'll give you an estimated calories for maintenance based on your activity level. That'll be the top of your range. Stay within that range. If you eat within that range, eat a little more when you're more active, within the range. Eat a little less when you're less active, within that range. Over time, you will lose body fat. Within those calories, you do want to aim for somewhere between 0.6 to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. If you have a really high body fat percentage, maybe you don't want to go all the way up to kind of 1 or 1.2. You can go in the lower end, maybe 0.6, 0.8. Well, actually, let me change my description on how to do that. There we go. Okay, let's go with this. So if you have a high body fat percentage, maybe we don't want to use our full body weight, because a large portion of your body weight is just body fat. It's not really muscle, which is what we're eating protein for, is we want to eat protein to repair and maintain our muscle tissue. So if you have a high body fat percentage, maybe you only want to use about like 70, 80% of your body weight. If you're already relatively lean, maybe you're only 20, 30 pounds overweight, you can use closer to your body weight. It's not really going to matter much. So you can make small variances there and not worry too much about whether you're 100% correct. The reason why is if we have excess protein, it doesn't get converted to body fat. It's only excess dietary fats and carbohydrates that would get converted to body fat. If you undereat your protein, you'll notice you just kind of feel lethargic. You feel a little more hungry between your meals. You don't recover as well from your weight training. So maybe you can bump the protein up, and that will help address those issues. So in general, just aim for somewhere between 0.6 to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. Adjust as you go. There you go. I can give people more accurate numbers if I knew you as like an individual. But if I'm talking to everybody in general, whoever the heck is listening to this, I can't give you a specific number because I don't know how much you weigh and how much your body fat is and how often you lift weights. So in general, a range of 0.6 to 1.2 is somewhere in the ballpark, and then you adjust. Those steps will be the first two steps of what anybody would need to do to set up a diet. The third step is then trying to have your calories and protein relatively spread out throughout the day. Try not to have very little bit of food during the day and a whole bunch of food at night. A general concept when it comes to when to eat is eat more when you move more, eat less when you move less. And if you do that throughout the day, that's going to help you get further body compositional improvements. Meaning, if you just do calories and protein per day, you're going to be able to regulate your body weight very well. But if you want to regulate the way you look, meaning your muscle compared to your fat, adding this component of timing or distribution, eating more when you move more, eat less when you move less, will help you look better at your current weight. So you'll still weigh the same, but you'll be a little less water retention, a little bit firmer, a little bit tighter, a little better energy during the day, a little better recovery from workouts. All these other experiential factors start to improve. So those are the first three things that we really want to address is, do I have the right amount of calories? Do I have the right amount of protein? Am I spreading this stuff out throughout the day? Am I eating more when I move more? Am I eating less when I move less? If you follow that, and again, using that BMR calculator to find out your ceiling and your top level of calories, that is going to help you if you're under eating because you've been trying to drive fat loss, but now all of a sudden you're too severely under eating. This will help you actually lose fat by eating more because it's going to put you in the right deficit. Okay. So hopefully that was fun. Hopefully that was interesting. If you have any questions, let me know. Our website is www.c3method.com. The 3 is spelled out T-H-R-E-E, so C-T-H-R-E-E method.com. You can also email me at c3method@gmail.com. So I appreciate it if you reach out. If you need anything, let me know. I'm always here. I'm always happy to help. I appreciate you listening to the podcast, and I want to make sure you get everything and anything you need. There you go. Cool. Well, if you like the podcast, please share it. The more people we share it with, the more people can help. If you like the information we share in the podcast, you can find more information from us on our Instagram and YouTube channels. So if you check us out on there, make sure you follow us and subscribe so you can see all the new information. But I do post new and different stuff that's covered outside of the podcast, so you can definitely check us out on there. And on both locations, Instagram and YouTube, we're under the name C3 Method. As always, I hope this was helpful. And thank you for listening.